Welcome to YSM Conversations, a gathering place for women who sense something deeper is calling. Together, we believe that the most profound adventures begin within, and that when women gather in deep conversation, something ancient and necessary awakens.
Open the door to a new conversation through generative listening, weaving together generations of wisdom and listening beyond the ears to restore the intelligence your body has always carried and integrate soulfulness into the adventure of your life. This is restoring and connecting to the deeper current running beneath it all.
We are YSM Conversations. Welcome home. Welcome back into the conversation. Here's a little of where we left off.
In the generative listening of you, I'm like, we could do a retreat on this for people that do crave this. I was like, oh, okay. Wouldn't that be an interesting experience to be with people in the, how do I get my own access? Wouldn't that be interesting to be in an experience with others and playing with those different ways that we might generate?
That would be so fun. And I'm going to just say it now that it is going to happen. And it's what wanted to be revealed to us because we literally yesterday were talking about what are we making here? What's going to be coming from this beyond the episodes of this podcast? And you're all invited. Please come. We'd love to have you.
Sedona.
Reunion in Sedona. And we continue.
This is why we love being in conversation, that another layer gets revealed of how YSM serves through the uniqueness of us being in conversation. So percolate on that a little bit. And also, I do want to respond. One of the ways that I'm in the experience of it somatically, that I can track the body awareness through the conversation in a way that helps me know I want more. There's something more here that I'm listening beyond, and I could feel my body expanding from my heart space, not only more full, but more forward. So there are different body cues that help us be in that generative presencing of what is revealing and how we're moving with it.
As you're talking about the somatic piece of generative listening, what came to me that I've experienced so many times in this process that I didn't have words for before, that I didn't know it was generative listening that we were doing, is this sense of when I'm in generative listening, I'll have these splashes of insight that are like, oh, it comes to me and then it opens up this whole other universe of insight to play with. And it's this opening experience. If you're not watching the video, I'm expanding my hands almost like a ripple in water where there's one drop of insight and then it expands outward. And there's so much more accessible for playing with. So for me, a lot of the somatic experience of it is like plunk, expand.
You just revealed an old memory of mine of 20 years ago. I was in a group experience, and the woman who was guiding it called it Waves of Wisdom. And when you were doing your hands in that rippling of the waters, I was thinking of waves of wisdom that come to you.
And it is waves. I had the imagery of leapfrogging, frogs on lily pads. There's a wave, you jump from one, and then there's a wave, and there's another. There's so much to play with here. If you ever watched our conversations and you've seen my face go, oh, that's what's happening. That's a plunk and a wave of wisdom coming through.
There's that deeper multidimensionality nature that you're bringing forward, an example of how we get these amazing insights that get voiced in our language in unique ways. And it pauses us, like it paused you earlier, that I still cannot recall, because it comes from that aspect of us that's more higher mind awareness. And so it doesn't get compartmentalized. I love recording things now because then I can go back and hear what was transmitted or activated that we can then draw upon in the future And the one other thing that I want to bring in doing some research, we've uncovered this notion of generative listening that is future visioned rather than generating based on past experience. And I think that speaks volumes to the organic nature of the origin of YSM conversations, that we stayed in this listening over many, many months. Even as we started this podcast, it's that listening to the future possibility of what will come through. And so that really aligned for me when I was reading about that. I said, yes, that's absolutely what we visioned through the beginning of the conversations. I still think it's funky, weird that all of a sudden we're in a conversation and go, oh, wow, YSM is its own beingness. And it just hit me like, duh, right? And then we said, okay, now we see what we've been in for all these months. And then all the podcasts that have come before this moment in time brought us to being in the origin story and how it generated itself into the newness of what it is now coming into this moment in time.
I think it's part of that self-revelation process and the generative listening process to have it be piece by piece revealing itself without necessarily having a name to start out with, because when we name something, it puts it in a box and prevents it from becoming exactly what it wants to become until it's formed. And then it's like, oh, that's what this is. It's telling us what it wants to be. And I think there's an intelligence to that layer by layer revelation process, because if our 10-year-old selves were dropped into our bodies and our lives now, 30, 50 years later, it would be like, what the F is going on? It's similar with generative listening and revelation piece by piece, layer by layer, where if we knew whatever we are creating, the end goal, air quotes, probably would scare the shit out of me. Because it's like, it's whatever it is down the line. And I don't know how to get there. I don't even know if I want it.
I can't even imagine what creation has in store for us. That's true in moving forward. It dawned on me in the origin story that maybe we should tell people how we got the name YSM.
Oh, yeah, totally. Totally.
It's such a silly, simple kind of thing. And I have been asked that by someone that I was telling them what we were up to. Well, where did the YSM come from? What does that mean?
This was an experiment. And when we recorded our very first podcast, we were like, oh, we should have some kind of welcome, some kind of introduction to what this is. We both assumed it would be temporary, or we both said it can be temporary. We can change it in the future if it reveals to us again that it wants to be something else. And we basically were like, okay, well, I'm Danielle YS, you're Victoria McMahon, YSM, last names, initials, great. It's simple, it's easy, it's true, and it doesn't put us into a box before we even get going. It's just us, and whatever us reveals will reveal what it wants to be called in the future if that changes. So yeah, the origin of YSM is so simple, born out of necessity to invite you all in.
And born out of the all we do is show up.
Yeah.
YS shows up and M shows up. And in that, YSM conversation is generated. Isn't that amazing?
We recently started to do a single introduction and a single outro in our episodes. And originally, the words for the introduction were, "This is YSM Conversations." And then there was another, "This is," previous to it. And we were both like, oh, I don't really want "this is" twice. And so, Victoria, you want to finish the story?
What I think is grand about it is ultimately we realize, one, there's this tendency in our culture to say, I'm so-and-so and this is what I do. And what got revealed, another chipping away of the stone, is we are YSM. So it's who we are. It's how we show up. And I think that needs a place in there to say, we've created something that's beyond our unique personalities, and we show up to be in the listening that gets generated beyond who we are as individuals, that we become part of a collective listening that gives us access to so much more. And as one of my good mentor friends would say, gets you out of your pea brain and allows that higher consciousness aspect of multidimensional nature to become part of, and then my pea brain can witness the revealing of that. Does that make sense?
It does. And it really is this moving from the individual into that collective experience of we are humans, we are beings of earth. Fewer borders, fewer barriers between each other, fewer separations, so that we can come into that union that, again, we're all being magnetized towards that natural organic design that is wanting to come out through us, and that our little pea brains are like, no, scary. If I don't have separations, it means that I don't exist. But as we move into generative listening, naturally is this melding and coming together of the beings that are in the listening with each other, whether that is humans with each other, whether that's a human and a tree, whether that's a human and a rock. It's that coming together, that dissolution of separation that is an illusion anyway.
Right. And as we've talked about so many different times, in that coming together, you and I still hold our distinctions. We don't lose that part of ourselves. We just gain more of who we are, holding our distinctions, being in connection. And I think that's what will free us up from this mindset of separation, is that we bring our distinctions with us into the greater field of what's between us. And that's what YSM conversations as a beingness generates.
When two people are in relationship with each other from a place of non-wholeness and they're coming together to feel whole, that doesn't create unity, it creates dependency. But when two beings come together from their own sense of wholeness, something can be created that is greater. The individuals still maintain that sense of self, knowing that that is enough. We can only be fully connected with each other if we are fully whole first.
And in the full wholeness, we will have bumps in the road.
And I'll repeat it back to you because you keep saying, I forgot what I said. The bumps become part of the awakening.
Thank you. See, you just brought it right back around to me. That was delicious. What's the takeaway from today's conversation?
There might need to be more than one takeaway. One of the takeaways is that really concise definition. The bumps become part of the awakening. And just showing up reveals what wants to be revealed. But also this piece around not naming it too soon, not giving it a label too soon is really beautiful. And sure, it probably leads us down the line to this place of like, oh, duh, when we actually do find a name for it or it's revealed to us. And I think that's part of the process.
I'll add one more takeaway that really stands out for me. This notion that patience and perseverance are gifts that bring us to the place in ourselves where we really desire to go. They're really on our side, even when it might not seem that way. Like, how many more conversations do we have to have before something actually generates? And the more years I have, the more I'm appreciating that whole lotus, that it does bloom from the muck. And it may take longer. I might be a late bloomer, and that might be just perfect.
So juicy, so beautiful. I think we're at a beautiful place to say bye for now and invite you all into generative listening as you move about your day, sharing, subscribing, and liking our channels, this podcast, and sending it to someone who you've had an experience of generative listening with as an invitation into more generative listening with each other. So wonderful to be with all of you. Thank you for being here. We are YSM Conversations, and we will see you and be with you next time.
Thank you for diving deep with us into generative listening. If this episode stirred something in you, subscribe to keep restoring with us. And if someone came to mind while you were in your own generative listening, share this episode with them. Because when women gather, something ancient and necessary awakens.
We are YSM Conversations, connecting back to the deeper currents on behalf of seeding our next collective wholeness.